Previously, we explored the world of pre-Columbian seafaring, how the Maya took to the waves and dug out canoes. But what were these bold merchants and mariners carrying in their boats? Where did these items and materials come from, and why were they so important? Post-classic lowland Maya civilization witnessed an unprecedented rise in maritime activity. It was a period of great internationalization that transformed the social and economic landscape of Mesoamerica. Major port centers emerged along the shores of the Yucatan Peninsula, linking the Gulf Coast of Mexico to the Bay of Honduras via a network of coastal, riverine, and overland routes. The goods traded regionally and interregionally included salt, cotton, cacao, stone, as well as finished sumptuary objects. The period most associated with Maya seafaring and extensive coastal development is the late post-classic period, for which we have a rich iconographic record and contact period accounts that speak of a greater Mesoamerica connected by maritime trade and interaction. However, the strengthening of maritime economies and the establishment of circumpeninsular trade routes occurred during the terminal classic to early post-classic period, around the 9th to 13th centuries AD, when the powerful Itzá polity demonstrated an increased reliance on maritime commerce and communication for the purposes of maintaining and extending its control over the northern lowlands. Among the most valuable commodities controlled and transported by the maritime Maya was salt. For inland peoples, wild game and domestic animals were a relatively minor part of their overall diet, and therefore sodium intake was limited without access to salt, an essential nutrient. And nowhere else on the Yucatan Peninsula were the conditions and environmental setting more ideal for evaporative salt production than in the shallow bays of the low-lying north coast. The ancient Maya engineered the lagunas into highly productive salt ponds or salinas, transforming this coastal landscape and leaving behind a treasured legacy for the contemporary salineros of Yucatan. Though archaeologists can identify salt production facilities, from the evaporation ponds of Rio Lagartos to pots used to boil seawater at the Paynes Creek Salt Works in Belize, material evidence of salt trade at Maya ports can be elusive. Still, we can reasonably assume that salt was exchanged for other commodities like cotton and cacao from as far away as the Chontalpa region of the Gulf lowlands. The salting and drying of fish would have given some inland peoples a taste of the sea, but at major cities deep in the interior, salt itself would be the savory gift from a distant shore. In a marketplace mural scene at Calakmul, we see a wrapped salt cake being exchanged with a vendor, just a glimpse into the far reach of the maritime Maya. Like salt, many items or commodities that made their way in and out of Maya trading ports left little trace in the archaeological record. This includes one of pre-Columbian America's most beloved gifts to the world, chocolate or cacao. Cultivated by the Maya for over 3,000 years, cacao had monetary and social value, exchanged as currency, and consumed on special occasions. Their chocolate was not the toothsome confection familiar to us all, but rather a frothy beverage often spiced with chili peppers. Scenes of the ceremonial consumption of cacao appear on murals and painted pottery. The vessels themselves often marked as the drinking cup of a particular personage. The cacao plant also appears in mythical scenes. Here, the head of the maize god grows from the trunk of a cacao tree. Both chocolate and maize associated with this important deity. Cacao was indeed the food of the gods, and would have been among the most precious of cargoes carried by these skilled and intrepid paddlers. But no less important, and arguably more essential, was cotton. The plant was cultivated across different environments and at various scales throughout Mesoamerica. However, the bulk trade of cotton flourished during the terminal classic and post-classic periods. In colonial accounts, the quality of cotton from Yucatan was lauded by Diego de Landa and his contemporaries. And like salt and cacao, physical evidence of this commodity is scarce at coastal ports. But at trading centers like Vista Alegre and Quintana Roo, we find spindle whorls that suggest on-site cotton thread production. Of course, ancient Maya art and iconography provide a glimpse into both the weaving of textiles and the resplendent nature of courtly costume. It's amazing to think that entire civilizations were built without iron or steel. From buildings to monuments, from the most exquisite art objects to the mundane trappings of everyday life. The Maya fashioned their world from tools of stone, bone, wood, and shell. The most desirable material for creating the sharpest and finest of blades was obsidian, or volcanic glass. Obsidian does not occur naturally across the limestone expanses of the northern Yucatan Peninsula, and had to be imported from afar. At ancient Maya coastal ports, we find obsidian artifacts that we can trace to sources like Pachuca and Ucareo in central Mexico, and Ixtepeque and El Chayal in the volcanic highlands of Guatemala. Canoes would have delivered obsidian blanks, cores, preforms, and even razor-sharp prismatic blades to trading centers for distribution to inland communities. Skilled craftspeople would press, flake, peck, and grind this glassy material into tools and weapons, ornaments, and even fantastic ceremonial objects like so-called obsidian eccentrics. Most telling of its relative rarity and high value in the northern Maya lowlands is how obsidian blades were reused, even to the point of exhaustion. Once the smooth razor's edge of a prismatic blade would dull, it might be refashioned into a tiny scraper. Nothing would go to waste, especially precious materials imported from faraway lands. The Maritime Maya gave rise to vibrant centers of coastal commerce and interaction. Truly theirs was a cosmopolitan world, where goods and ideas were exchanged, and the challenges of the sea were met with courage and ingenuity. Yet little is known about the shifting alliances between ports and inland powers, or exactly how coastal populations responded to hurricanes, piracy, or a changing environment. We still have so much to learn about these resilient and resourceful people, and how they charted their course through Mesoamerican history.